Welcome back to Bedford Purley Woods in Cambridgeshire, where thanks to laser technology we've been able to see through the trees to reveal evidence of a large complex of Roman buildings. And so far we've opened up 2 trenches to try and find out what type of settlement this was. It's early days yet, but in Phil's trench we've got lots of Roman walls to puzzle over. While in our second trench, Matt's got his own Roman structure to make sense of. Meanwhile, I'm off to find out more about the person who first discovered this site. Helen, who was the antiquarian who came across this site a couple of hundred years ago?
He was a chap called Edmund Artis. We've got a photo of him, amazingly. And he was a kind of gentleman archaeologist, antiquarian. He was actually interested in most things. He also was an expert on fossils and geology. And in 1828, he made this completely fantastic map of the area. And the bit we're interested in, our wood, is up here. Now you can see we've got this lovely red horseshoe-shaped Roman building, and he's also put these brown dots on, which he codes as ironworks. And I think these must be pits dug to remove iron ore.
Did he actually do any digging?
Well, I have been trying to find that out, and I can find no concrete evidence that he actually dug a hole. It may have been he just came past and saw earthworks or even standing buildings.
Stuart, how does his map relate to what we can see on the ground?
Well, I like it, I do, because when I came up here this morning and sort of walked through, I drew in my sketchbook a shape that looks exactly like that. This thing would have been visible when he drew it, it's still visible now.
Isn't it a bit bizarre, though, that he's drawn this horseshoe building, bits of which seem to go under the road?
Well, I mean, it's possible that when he came here that you could still see remains of bumps going under the surfaces of the road, as it were. But whether they carried on into this field, we'll never know, because if you look over there, it's been quarried out and now it's being used as landfill, so we'll never know whether these ranges actually extended into that area.
Unfortunately, Edmund Artis never published his written reports, so I guess we'll be finishing the job for him over the next 3 days. But at least we've got our high-tech picture of the lumps and bumps to guide us, and Stuart's insisting that the only way to look at it properly is in black and white and in 3D.
This big regular horseshoe building range, you say, this is what Artis drew on his plan quite clearly. This is where Phil is digging in this building cluster in here. There's clearly other buildings and structures coming up along here. And at the north end, this is where Matt's trench has gone along there. I mean, you can see there's a regular courtyard, as it were, the range coming along the south here. This has never been spotted before. There's clearly an area there, which is another possible isolated building. If you come away from the site, there's a rectangular area showing up there, which looks like either a building or a big compound. Very definitely a building sitting there.
Well, we can't just sit around speculating and watching a square spinning round. Thanks to these high-tech results and Stuart, we're now looking at a site that's much bigger than we originally thought. So we need to choose our targets carefully. As over in Phil's trench, we've already got plenty of Roman archaeology to deal with.
We're actually starting to get some metalwork. I think that's a Roman key, isn't it?
You're quite right, it's a key, but it's quite a simple type of key. But where there's a key, there must have been a door.
And something worth locking up. So I was right about that one, but I don't know about that.
This is one of those things that, academics are tearing their hair out exactly what this sort of thing is. Some people think it might have been a stylus for writing.
Right.
Like, old pens with nibs on the end. But it's very crude for that. The other possibility is that it goes on a piece of dowel for shoveling along an animal, poking along a sheep to get it moving.
As well as bizarre sheep handling devices, there's also more building evidence.
That's part of the flooring. That's a huge, great floor tile. It's much too thick to be a hypercourse tile or a wall tile. It's probably a much bigger piece like that.
There's still lots of rubble to remove, but already Phil's discovered the walls survive to some depth, and in places are built with fragments of stone and tile, creating a herringbone pattern. 80 metres away in our second trench, Matt's finding that the walls he's unearthed are built in exactly the same way.
There's quite a few bits of floor tile out of there.
Oh, right.
But I think these were actually built into the wall and formed a part of the structure.
Right, because you get layers of tile in Roman walls.
Yeah.
That rather suggests it is a building, I think.
Yeah. And there's been a few bits of pottery as well.
Oh, that's good, because there's very little from elsewhere. So what have you got? The local wares?
Yeah, that's Roman Neen Valley.
Yeah.
That's
rather good.
And we've also had a bit of iron ore as well.
Ah, no, that's good, because we've got a metallurgist coming tomorrow, so
Right.
he can have a look at that.
Yeah.
But as we approach the end of the day, there's another intriguing aspect of this site that's got everyone talking. And it's that Edmund Artis recorded these two statues being found in the woods here in 1845. However, Guy's a bit doubtful. He's not sure they're actually Roman.
I'm always a little bit suspicious about very classical types of sculpture like that being found in this country.
Guy, you sceptic.
But it's precisely because they are so unusual in this country that makes it very difficult for us to put them in automatically into a context and say, oh, we definitely know what that would have been from.
In spite of any misgivings, Victor's had a bash at picturing how the statues looked complete. They were probably meant to represent charioteers and might have been part of a roadside tomb built for a wealthy landowner. Your point is that it would be really rare because you don't get much Roman statuary in England, right?
There might have been a lot more. It's just that very little survives.
But more could still be surviving in the woods, presumably.
That is quite conceivable, given the fact that this building seems to have been allowed to fall down in its own right, rather than be demolished and cleared.
Well, it's not often you hear talk of possible Roman statues at the end of day one. And given the preservation here, who knows what we might turn up in these woods tomorrow.